Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. English Independence, Free England, and www.englishexit.com. If you want to find out more about us, you can find us on X, you can find us on Rumble, and you can find us on Locals. English Constitution Society is a broad church. Anyone, you can even be Welsh, Scottish, or Irish if you want to join us. In fact, anyone in the Commonwealth, anywhere can join us. It's not about left or right politics. It's about the rule of law. It's about the Constitution, the English Bill of Rights, which we all share. So again, I'm going to go into this particular element. I'm hoping everyone can see it on the screen there. So what I'm going to do is talk you through this. English independence, what does it mean? Free England, which also means free Wales, free Scotland, free Ireland from British rule, right? And for the people of Northern Ireland, that means that you will be completely independent like the Isle of Man, right? You'd have your own parliament, you'd have the English Bill of Rights, you'd have access to the ancient laws and custom of English common law, which was also shared with Southern Ireland. If you don't believe me, go and ask them, right? So it is the British and the Romanisation, if you want to call it that, of the system that we object to. So again, I'm going to start the presentation. Why independence? England has no voice and is disadvantaged and under attack. English Parliament and a confederacy of shires and counties. What does that mean? Well, if anyone looks up the old laws and the ancient rulings and the precedents that were set in English common law from the English High Court, one of the rulings that even come from Charles I, believe it or not, was he respected that Parliament could make laws, but it could not make laws that went against the rights of an Englishman. And if you think that's wrong, then you need to look up certain books, and they're called the Forgotten Books of History. Those books take you to old cases in English law, 1500s, 1600s, etc. And you will see the constitutional laws being developed. Why is it important? Well, for example, people don't realise that Queen Amy was murdered, that Leicestershire was actually called in the Declaration of Clarendon the Commonwealth of Leicestershire. Really? So again, there's lots of things that people don't know, and the laws that protect us and our access to ancient usage, ancient customs and ancient laws are there for a reason. The British Parliament, what is it? It's a political union. Unionist means central control, no different to the Roman system. In fact, Britannia was named, so the Alba, the island of Alba, the island of Albion, the island that we live on, was named Britannia by the Romans. It then, when the Romans left, we started to create our own societies, our own kingdoms. Obviously, the 7 kingdoms come together, and we called ourselves England. One nation under God, right? Scotland was still Scotland, Wales was still Wales, Ireland was Ireland, etc. So what we're doing is showing you that the original way is the best way. Scottish Parliament, what is it? It's actually not a parliament. Currently, it's not a parliament. It's actually a European Union Assembly. And by the way, those people in Scotland running the politics up there know that. It is the Scottish people that are being lied to by their own politicians. British Unionists use the same arguments as Remainers. So if you think about the European Union, even the Soviet Union, the American Union as it is from 1860s, it is all the British template or the Roman template for Central Empire control. So once people understand that, you then go on to the next points, which is, quite simply, England and the English have no voice and are disadvantaged contrary to the Acts of Union 1706-1707. The Acts of Union are in bad faith. What does that mean? In law, bad faith means that you've gone against the actual principle of what the treaty was, and therefore you have nullified the treaty, you have nullified the law, and it means that the British Parliament is no longer in effect. And once you void the Acts of Union for being in bad faith, any law made after 1707 is null and void, because it got its authority, or any agreements it made were made with the authority of Parliament, right? So I want that to be clear. England has a constitution. Britain does not have a constitution. That's a fact. The two constitutions of England and Scotland are different, and we have different legal jurisdictions. Scotland is under Roman law. England and Wales are under the common law. England has customs and traditions and ancient usage rights. The laws of England are, and by the way, England has customs and traditions and ancient usage rights. That is contrary to Roman law, because Roman law had something called desuetude, which we don't have. In other words, under the Roman system, if a law isn't used for a long time, it becomes obsolete. Under the English common law and precedent, it can always be referred to and back to. Even if it was an 800-year-old precedent, it can be referred back to. And there's various other elements that we'll go through. The laws of England are the birthright of the English. Where does that come from? Is it a phrase? Is it a statement? Yes, it is. Where does it come from? Our constitutional law, which is just as important as the English Bill of Rights. And that law is the Acts of Settlement 1701. Chapter 4, it actually states that the laws of England are the birthright of an Englishman. England is a conservative and Christian nation by custom and law. That is quite correct. I can go through all the historical precedents, and the Lord Chief Justices have said that in the past. In recent years, in the early 1900s, there was a case that was brought by the Secular Society. It was, in my opinion, wrongly decided, and I believe that the people that was actually in control of that were the Fabians, and I'm talking about in control of the judges, and that case should never have been found in the way that it was. It was wrongly decided. In fact, I think it was in the 1860s that a previous English court made a precedent that we were a Christian nation, right? So, and there's some important elements to that which I want to emphasise. English taxpayers pay for Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland and the European Union. And the European Union now currently via the European Defence Union, which they're saying isn't a defence union. Basically, they're politicising the whole element of that. And what you're going to get now, is England's children and Welsh, Northern Ireland, Scotland can be conscripted into an EU war, a European Union war, and it is a cull on the working white population, just to make sure you are aware of that. The British Parliament, created by the Acts of Union 1706, 1707, there are no English MPs, there are Scottish MPs, a First Minister. It has an EU Assembly, not a Parliament, contrary to point 1. Welsh MPs, a First Minister. It has an EU Assembly, not a Parliament. And the British MPs, First Minister, Prime Minister. United Kingdom Parliament of Great Britain, a political union, not a national parliament. And people need to understand the difference between a political union and a national parliament. So England has no national parliament. No, not that we'd want one. It has no assemblies. So what they're creating now, which we're going to get to, is they're splitting England into regions and then giving them parliamentary assemblies. So that, therefore, they are destroying England. That's the point of what they're doing. It's been carried out by the Uni Party and the not-so-civil service because they want to destroy England, right? Assisting with that destruction is the Scots, the Welsh, and the Northern and Southern Irish, believe it or not, right? They don't understand, well, many of the normal working class people don't understand what they're actually doing. And part of this is to show you what they're doing, right? So again, Britain is not a nation. It's really important to understand this. Britain is not a nation. It is an island. It contains two nations, Scotland and England, and a principality called Wales, which can be reverted back to full nationhood. The UK is a political union between Scotland and England. The EU is a political union with a Politburo type governance. The USSR was a political union. So now is the USA since the 1860s and the Civil War control. And if people want to understand more about that, look at Switzerland and the Civil War. The Civil War in Switzerland, where they banished from Switzerland the Jesuits. Understand who the Jesuits are. In other words, the Black Pope. If you think he doesn't exist, go and have a look at their oath and you'll find out who they are and what they are. They very much do exist to this current day. Scottish Parliament. Scotland did not regain its Parliament for the first time since 1706 in 1999. It got an EU Assembly. The British did not give back the Scottish Parliament. The British did not give back England's Parliament. England is divided into regions. This was always the EEC plan. Regionalism means destroying shires, counties, districts and parishes. That is a current project and it's been going for quite some time. It was first kicked off by John Major. It was carried on by Tony Blair and it's been carried on by the British regime ever since. The phrase the nations and regions of the UK omits England as a nation. Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland are the nations in the phrase, but once England is divided and lost, they become regions just like everybody else. And that means you are absorbed into the Union, the European Union, which is a stepping stone to the new world order, right? Unions or unionists don't like nationalists, right? So make sure that you understand what we're actually talking about. Dissolve the Union and dissolve British citizenship, English passports, English subjects of the realm protected by constitutional law that is already in existence. You don't need to touch the existing constitution. You can make further constitutional elements separate to make sure that you can implement, for example, an English digital Bill of Rights that forbids central bank digital currency, ensures that no one can ever take cash out of the economy. In other words, everyone is entitled to earn money cash. And if you understand that, it's at the link to that is actually the English Digital Bill of Rights is actually on our website, which is www.englishconstitutionparty.com. Don't forget, you can also go to englishconstitutionsociety.com, which is completely non-political, right? The English Constitution Party is not left or right. Its manifesto is the English Constitution, right? So when you go and look at it, you think, wow, their manifesto is actually constitutional law and the rights and liberties of the people. By the way, that's how it should be. So again, English schools and English money, English constabularies elected. You're going to get go back to the election of chief constables and what we used to call sheriffs. So the American system, they elect everyone, and that is a fair and constitutional system. It is true democracy, and they also carry out many referendums. They ask the opinion of the people. So they have a cross system or a dual system. It is the Swiss system of direct democracy and also aligned with the common law system of England. That is basically the American system. It's a hybrid of Swiss English governance. And England used to be a confederacy. So again, English, let me just make sure. I'll bring this back up for you. I think this has gone pear-shaped on my screen currently. I might have to hit that every now and again. So again, you have English police constitutionally trained. That's really important because they took that out. Anyone watching this of a certain age will remember when police officers were not allowed to have unsupervised supervision, unsupervised access to the public unless they'd served a 2-year probation period as an apprentice with a police constable, and at the end of that period they had to pass a constitutional exam. If they didn't clear their probation or pass that constitutional exam, they could not become a police constable and they was out, right? It was a proper apprenticeship on, if you want to call them constables of the peace, or they were the peacekeepers. They were not there to get 6 nicks a day and process you as a piece of cattle, right? That wasn't their function. So again, English judges elected, and again, I would say they would have to pass a constitutional exam, and we are the people who write that exam with the real constitutional law, not the British bureaucratic stimuli, and you can use the initials of that if you like. I'm talking about real constitutional law. They need to understand what their job is and the separation of powers, and their job and their role is to strike down primary law if it goes against an Englishman's rights. And the same as the monarchy. So you can have a monarch or you can have an elected president, but their job is to protect. That's why in America they still have a situation where they issued a prerogative of mercy, so they pardon people. And they also, there was lots of executive functions that are presidential, because it mimics what the monarchy was supposed to do, but it's mimicking the separation of powers. It's really important that people understand that we do not and never have had an absolutist system until the British declared themselves as sovereign, and part of that happened in 1867 and 1947 when they unlawfully, ultra-vires, repealed sections of the English Bill of Rights, which they were never entitled to do. It was unlawful in every way. And if anyone looks at the original English Bill of Rights from the Convention Parliament, you'll understand that the Convention Parliament is not an ordinary parliament. A Convention Parliament, and it had a 22-day period in which the English Bill of Rights was enacted, and it actually stated within that enactment, and it was agreed by all 3 of the separate powers, that once this becomes law, it can never be changed outside of this Convention Parliament. And that was it, right? So people need to understand that. So English county councils and an English parliament, you would return, if you want to call it, to the Commonwealth of Yorkshire, or the Commonwealth of Leicester, the Commonwealth of Lancashire, If you want to refer to it as that, you can, but they're independent, right? And they're managed independently. The only thing that governs them is the English constitutional law, which says you cannot make a law that goes against their rights. English traditional boundaries for cities. We would restore English counties, and that includes Middlesex. Middlesex was destroyed by the regioning of London and the regioning of the rest of England. Jihadists return to ancestral homelands, or failing that, Saudi Arabia or Iran. But it also means, and people need to be aware of this, I'm not singling out Islam here, right? The Talmud is forbidden, Sharia is forbidden, and Roman canon law is forbidden in England. And any of those people professing them laws in this country are forbidden to become members of Parliament. So says the English Bill of Rights, and so says the Act of Settlement. You need to understand that, right? That's why they fear the English Constitution and people understanding its meaning and where it comes from and why it was put in place, right? We had a civil war that sorted all this out, trust me. And these people know, we know, which is why we are censored on every platform, because we actually tell the truth, not the bureaucratic stimuli. So what is England, people, you may add? Here we go. I'm going to put that on the screen. So it's on your screen. You should be able to see that. A union of countries, not a country of countries. So England is a confederacy within Britain. Great Britain means the whole of the island from tip to toe. The British Isles is the expansion to Ireland, right? So I just want everyone to know what it means. So there it is. Separate constitution parts of the UK. Scotland for the Scottish. England for the English. Wales for the Welsh. Northern Ireland for the Northern Irish. And there's a particular reason that came about. And it was more to do with the Scots and a Scottish king than it was to do with the English. But again, it was the Protestants that were under attack, right? So England is a Protestant nation, and they were the border Protestants that the Scottish king picked up and basically shipped them all over to Northern Ireland. Great Britain is displayed on your screen, all in black. That is Great Britain. Great Britain is an island. It is not a nation. It's the same as calling Australia technically isn't a country. It's a continent. It's like talking about Africa. Africa contains a number of nations. This is an island that contains two nations and a principality that can be returned to nationhood. But it's their decision. The British Isles, what does it mean? The United Kingdom, there it is in the middle there. Great Britain, Scotland, Wales and England. And the British Isles includes Northern Ireland. And then to the left of that, you've got a republic, which is nothing to do with the United Kingdom. It is, so it hasn't got a king, it's got a president. Combined, the crown, as you can see at the top there, then you've got the Commonwealth realm, Canada, Australia, Papua New Guinea, New Zealand, Jamaica, Solomon Islands, Belize, the Bahamas, Barbados, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, Antigua, Bermuda, I think that is, St. Kitts and Nevis at Tuvalu. And then you've got the British Overseas Territories, different again. So you go through them. You've also got United Kingdom, which we've just explained. And then you've got Crown Dependencies. Now, Crown Dependencies is the Isle of Man, Guernsey, Jersey. Crown Dependencies is slightly different again. We can go through all the history of this, but for the purpose of this video, I'm just showing you. You can bring it up and you should be able to look at this and understand it. Insurgent organisations rooted out. The British Fabian Society, who hate England. Karl Marx once said, every communist revolution has been shipwrecked on the rock of England. He did not say Britain, and it is the common law system of justice that the communists seek to destroy, because they believe in a Roman system, which is a communist system where there's slaves and there's lords or masters. That's what they believe, right? Common purpose is another one, and there are others. I'll give you an example. Anyone who is a British Freemason, I can tell you now, there is a Scottish Lodge and Scottish Rites. There is an English Lodge called the Grand Lodge of England, which is an English lodge, and there is an Oriental Lodge, which is the European Union Lodge. They are distinct in their rituals, their rites, and what they believe in. The British Masons, Freemasons, are part of the problem. And again, there are many of them. And any legal Freemason who refers to Parliament being sovereign is actually breaching their oath to their brothers, because Lord John Somers, who was the keeper of the Great Seal of England, held many legal positions and was the great architect of the English Bill of Rights. They are literally betraying him. And guess what? He was an English Freemason. The same as George Washington was a Freemason. The same as Benedict Arnold was a Freemason and betrayed George Washington. So remember, people out there, not all Freemasons are bad. And just for the record, no, I'm not a Freemason. England surrounded by socialists. Parliament, there's a British flag. Parliament and the First Minister are British. Scotland, Parliament and First Minister Scottish. The Welsh Parliament and First Minister are Welsh. Northern Ireland, Assembly and First Minister are Northern Irish. And Parliament in Ireland and First Minister Irish. There's an Englishman sitting on a stool, stabbed in the back by all these groups of people, because you can't blame me for my trust issue against these people. They are all attacking us. England is the only country in Europe without its own parliament. That is a fact. The British Parliament is not an English parliament. England is politically voiceless. Laws are broken without redress through British courts and British judges. We call them Soviet judges for a reason. England has a constitution that protects individual rights and has a Bill of Rights of 1688. English laws are ignored by British courts. England's legal system is common law, customs and statutes. And England is being attacked from all directions and from within via the British regime. Regions of the New World Order. People don't realise that all of these areas that are being unionised, that means the United States of America from the 1860s, and then England via the British Union, the USSR done the same thing. They're regionalising. So when you look at the map, Scotland and Wales was left as their own nations, but not for long, people. Because what you'll find is that they have assemblies, not parliaments, and they are European Union assemblies, no different to London, who has an assembly, and the person running that is the Mayor of London, right? And the Mayor of London is Sadiq Khan. They are handing powers to the regions. They say it is the distributed power. That is rubbish. They are destroying and seeking to destroy English counties and shires, so you haven't got a country left at the end of it. That has always been their objective, and they are carrying on. On the right, you will see FEMA regions. Where did FEMA regions come from? 9/11, Patriots Act, Department of Homeland Security, FEMA regions, divide the United Independent States up into regions, bring states into each region, destroy the states, be left with regions, and then eventually you'll go into the New World Order under a different system controlled by the United Nations, the World Health Authority, the WEF, World Economic Forum, etc. And people should understand that the regionalisation is the same thing. A lot of Americans don't understand this, but when they see this slide, they go, now we can see it. Why are regions important? Regions are a key phase in destroying a country internally and removing power from the people. What is the purpose of regions? Regions are a mechanism used to destroy the previous and existing structure of any country that is decentralised power and local government. Why have the USA and England been regionalised? One is because we both have constitutions that protect the people from the power of the state, and two, because we had decentralised systems, which in effect was confederacy. So confederacy is opposed to central control. The Civil War fought in the United States of America in the 1860s was mainly fought not because of slavery. It was a control, central control system that the Union, led by Abraham Lincoln, who, by the way, was advised and influenced by Karl Marx. If you think that's rubbish, you need to go and research history, because around that time period there were lots of revolutions going on, and it was a particular group of people, whether you want to refer them to them as Frankists, Sabbatines, Jesuits, Talmudic, whatever the reference you want to give to them people, they did not have your best interests at heart, and I can tell you that for a fact, right? So after 9/11 attacks, the Patriot Act allowed for the Department of Homeland Security, which created the powers of FEMA regions 1 to 10, and this was all planned and been put into operation. Who created the power for enemies, our enemies? So removed the political power from the English. Who did that? The British. The British gave political power to global Islam via caliphate, and there's a reason for that. The British intelligence system created what you now see as Wahhabism or jihadism. The British intelligence system with the CIA and Mossad created, and I want you to understand this, they created Hamas. They created Al-Qaeda. They created ISIS. If you ever wondered why them people had brand spanking new Toyotas and all the most expensive military equipment and to feed and supply an army, the logistics involved, just think about that. Most people don't. I'm a systems engineer, a project manager, and I can tell you now, what wins wars is the logistical intelligence with supplying the army with what they need at the time, on time, right? When that fails, your army fails. And most of what's gone on in the Middle East, you can see, has been controlled locally with the assistance of 1, the CIA, 2, MI6. MI6 have been in operation since 1873 or thereabouts. If you think I'm kidding, you want to go and do some research into a certain lord who was killed in India in the 1800s, late 1800s, right? And find out the history of that, and you'll start to see what's going on. Who created Saudi Arabia? The British. Or the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The British created that. Who created Pakistan via the Fabians? The British. Who created Israel? The British. How? Balfour Agreement, Palestinian Mandate 1923, and various other elements, right? So if you void the Acts of Union, the authority for the Balfour Agreement and the Palestinian Mandate is void with it. Void and repeal are two separate terms in law. Void means anything that was created by the Act and by that Parliament is also void. If you repeal something up until the point of repeal, everything that it created is or was still law. That's why there's a major difference between void and repeal. You must void the Acts of Union for being in bad faith, right? And that resets many things, and it also frees every colony of the British Empire instantly, right? People need to understand that. The British created Israel. The British actually created China via the Fabians. If you want to know the history on that, that's a 2 to 3 hour video with evidence. The British created the USSR via the Fabians. Again, 2 to 3 hour video. I've done all of this in the past and explained it to people. A lot of my stuff was on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Each account taken down with many thousands, 25,000, 2,500, 20,000 on Facebook. Lots of people watching. My videos getting not just millions of views, but hundreds of thousands as a norm, and then literally on some occasions millions of views, and they took out all my work for about 10 years, or 10 years worth of work. Who created the USA via a constitution? The answer is the English. We anglicised America. The Americans did not Americanise England, right? It was the other way round, and it's often said that we're being Americanised. That's not true, right? We anglicised America. The system in America is English. They speak English, and I speak English, not British. So it's fairly obvious what went on there. Who attacked the USA? The answer is the British, because the English no longer existed from 1706 to 1707. We're a country from 927. The American Revolutionary War, 1775 to 1783, was waged by the British, not the English, the Scots, the Welsh, and the Irish, because they technically didn't exist. The War of 1812 and the Civil War of the 1860s. That again was caused by the British, and then you've got the attack on the USA 2016, and ... means it's carrying on now. And if you don't know what I mean by all that, you soon will do, right? Because events are coming very close to people understanding the reality of what's going on. So again, who created the USA via Constitution? The English did. Each star on that flag should represent an independent state in North America. That's what it stands for. They replaced it with a star. Originally, if you look at the Confederacy and the Confederacy of the South, you will see that they had their state flags was part of the Confederate flag. So people need to understand what it stood for. Who created the power for the enemies? Again, it's all on your screen. Why are regions important? I've been through that. Regionalisation is a method of destroying a nation state. Regions of the New World Order, I went through that. It's the same in America. FEMA regions versus the regions of England. It is a way of destroying nations. England is particularly voiceless, is politically voiceless. Laws are broken without redress through British courts and judges. That's current. It's happening. We need to purge British judges from our system, and we will when we go back to English independence. England surrounded by socialists. I've explained it. You can look at the meme there. It's fairly obvious. Insurgent organisations rooted out the British Fabian Society, the Common Purpose, and others. Combined, it goes through the Crown. British Isles explains what it is. Great Britain is an island. It's not a country. Separate constitutional parts of the UK explained on this side. A union of countries, not a country of countries. England is a confederacy. Dissolve the union and dissolve British citizenship, so you'd get English passports and go through that one, etc. You'd live in a far better system. Scottish Parliament, currently they have an assembly, not a Scottish Parliament. The British Parliament, doesn't in any way represent Englishmen from Lancashire, Yorkshire, Kent, Essex, all over. England and the English have no voice and are disadvantaged contrary to the Acts of Union, and the Acts of Union are now in bad faith, and there's no way of return. They've already committed the offence. Why independence? Again, the British Parliament is unionist and central control. It is actually in the reverse of what England stood for, which was a form of confederacy. English independence, free England, www.englishexit.com. And that, my friends, is the presentation for this section of the trilogy of British versus English. And I'm hoping people understand that. If you don't, you need to follow me on Rumble, X and Locals, where I talk about constitutional law, cases involving the Constitution, and the British, in effect, British judges' subversion, which is treason, of the English Constitution. That is it. Thank you. Don't forget, follow me on Rumble, X and Locals, 8 p.m. every evening, GMT. That means Greenwich Mean Time, and Greenwich is in England. Thank you. God bless, and I will see you on Rumble, hopefully.